Mr. Attorney General. Tonight, I'll lay out the case against the Clintons and Uranium One, and I'll show you the raging fire behind all that smoke. And that's not all.
Congress has been trying to get this from the FBI for months now.
Tonight, I head to Capitol Hill to get answers directly from two members of Congress who are pushing for the truth.
They have fought us tooth and nail on that.
And I'll talk live with the one man who may have more power than Congress when it comes to getting some action. Then, another controversy that's got me investigating.
Is this guy the sexiest guy alive?
I don't think so.
Street justice gets sexy over Blake Shelton.
Aren't there many sexy men out there, are there?
No.
It's a hot hour of justice, and it starts now. Hello and welcome to Justice. I'm Jeanine Pirro. Thanks for being with us tonight. If you didn't believe that the deep state existed after watching Attorney General Jeff Sessions testify before Congress this week, you should now. I don't know what the problem is, but I'm telling you, there is one. When Russia sells 20% of America's uranium, when the Clinton Foundation gets $145 million, when Bill gets a $500,000 speaking fee from the Kremlin-connected company financing the deal, when Buddy Barack allows Bill to meet with the head of the Russian Nuclear Energy Commission, and the Obama administration's Committee on Foreign Investment approves the sale, tone deaf to the concerns of Republican national security experts. No surprise, 7 of the 9 CFIUS members who approved the sale are connected to the Clinton Foundation. There's a problem, folks, and that problem needs to be investigated. So what's the problem? Why isn't this in front of a grand jury? Why no special counsel? Why is it so difficult for Jeff Sessions to answer a straight question? Why does it appear he's not even clear on whether and what he's recused from? Take a look.
Do you have the authority today, subject to your recusal, to appoint a special counsel to investigate the Uranium One matter?
I believe I do.
Do you have the authority to appoint a special counsel to investigate the Fusion GPS dossier?
I don't believe that I should be talking about and evaluating cases here today. So if I'm not recused, I have the authority, yes, and the duty and the responsibility to make that decision.
And why does it take him months to respond to a congressional oversight committee? His response wouldn't even need to be made public.
But my concern is we sent you a letter 3.5 months ago asking for a second special counsel. And if you're now just considering, what's it going to take to get a special counsel?
It would take a factual basis that meets the standards of the appointment of a special counsel.
Factual basis? Okay, let's try a different angle. The Clinton campaign and the DNC, which we now know were one and the same, much to Bernie's detriment, and the FBI all pay the author of a fake dossier to muddy up Donald Trump, your president, who appointed you, Mr. Attorney General, which dossier was presumably used by Jim Comey once he dropped it on the president's desk as a basis for a FISA application that could then be used to surveil Americans associated with Trump, which Americans were then illegally unmasked by the 17 intelligence agencies who themselves were suddenly unmasked, thus creating a kangaroo third world justice system where money, power, and the FBI are joined at the hip. And if that isn't worth looking at, then I'm from Mars. And if you did watch that hearing, did you even get a straight answer from the Attorney General? Does he even know the parameters of his own recusal? So how and when are we going to get answers? We already know it takes years for Congress to get responses. Predictions are that the release of Hillary's State Department and Benghazi emails won't be completed until 2020. Now, that's no way to run a government, but it's a real way to hide the truth, or at least cut the guilty a break. It's no wonder the Congress's approval rating is 15%, its disapproval 74%. So what needs to be done? In a few minutes, you'll hear from two congressmen determined to get answers. They believe they can successfully and in a timely fashion investigate and get answers. They will subpoena witnesses, bring people in to do depositions, ask for documents, do public hearings. But it must be on a timely schedule. None of this. Ask for a document, wait 3 months, not get the document. 6 months later, consider a subpoena. Wait until the subpoena comes or doesn't come. Basically, running out the scandal clock. The congressional committees need to be supported by leadership, congressional leadership. That means Paul Ryan, Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell. They need to buck up, take responsibility, and get everyone on board. Leadership needs to be in full agreement with committee members, willing to go the distance, willing to go wherever that evidence takes them. And as for the witness who brought Russia's corrupt efforts to pay off whomever they needed to access the United States uranium to the FBI and was then gagged so he couldn't spill the beans on the Clintons, well, he's now going to talk to Congress. There's already an effort to discredit him, which I find rather amusing, given the fact that this businessman was the key witness for the Department of Justice and the FBI, and the left that's attacking him hasn't even heard from him. I don't believe the left can even handle the truth. Now, those same two congressmen are going to tell you that they intend to ask the president to declassify the very application that was used to get the FISA warrant during the campaign. This will tell us whether the dossier created by Hillary and the DNC, and we believe paid for by the FBI as well, is part of the fake FISA application that created the surveillance of Donald Trump and those people connected to the campaign. So to those who say another special counsel serves no purpose, this must stop, I say baloney. I say law and order and truth and justice are the very foundations of this republic. And I am tired of the powerful and the Clintons being above the law that each and every one of us must follow. But Hillary says,
this appears to be the politicization of the Justice Department and our justice system. This Uranium One story has been debunked countless times by members of the press, by independent experts. It is nothing but a false charge. This is such an abuse of power, and it goes right at the rule of law.
Pray tell, Hillary. First of all, who's debunked it? The truth? Hillary is from the school of lie, deny, and delay. She and the Obama administration have thwarted Congress at every turn. Investigations are drawn out for so long that America's collective memory fades to the point where no one really cares anymore, which is just what the plan was in the first place. Look, I was a judge. It's real simple. If someone is subpoenaed and there's no response, you hold that person in contempt. You take a look at the facts, you prosecute, and if justified, you put them in jail. We have a system of laws that we, as an ordered society, have agreed to adopt, follow, and enforce. And even though I'm not on the bench anymore, and even though I'm not the DA anymore, I am going to continue to fight to get honest answers. I don't like when people lie, and I don't like when people try to take advantage of others. Now, I'm going to tell you, my audience, I've gotten some major pushback from people, but I'm still a believer. I still believe in truth and justice. The Department of Justice is the last resort, and I'm still a believer. And that's my open. Tell me what you think on my Facebook page, Twitter, and Instagram, hashtag Judge Jeanine. Now, joining me now with reaction to my opening statement, the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton. Okay, Tom, I believe that you have even more power than Congress. You have pried loose documents that even Congress can't get a hold of. And in fact, you, Tom, and I just want to take a second so my viewers understand who you are and what you've done. You were the one that unearthed the Obama lie that was peddled by the Obama communications people that they attributed to the intelligence officials, that Benghazi was the result of that horrible video, when in truth it was their failed policy, the lie that they created 6 weeks before the election so that he could get reelected. First of all, how do you get this power? How do you get the answers? And how is it that you're still with us?
Well, it's simple. We ask the questions, and when we don't get answers under the law, we go to court. Our attorneys go to court. On Benghazi, we went to court. We got that document that showed the big lie out of the White House about the Benghazi terrorist attack, and that led to the creation of the Select Committee. And that same area of litigation about Benghazi uncovered the Clinton emails, because they were hiding those emails from us in that litigation. So it's amazing what happens when you're willing to go to court and ask these questions. And Congress had 5 committees looking at these issues, and they couldn't figure it out. And frankly, even after the Select Committee was set up, we were still getting documents the Select Committee couldn't get.
Yeah, but what's amazing, Tom, is here you are. I mean, you're with Judicial Watch. You're looking at thousands. I've been reading about you. You're looking at thousands of documents, and you say, no, wait a minute. Under freedom of information, we got this, that, and the other thing, but there's no communications to and from Hillary. There's got to be a way that she's communicating with people, and then you realize she's working on a non-state.gov server. And but for you, I'm not sure we would even know what she was doing, and that all led to the American people believing she was untrustworthy, and some would even say to her not winning for president. You, Tom Fitton.
Well, it was a team effort for sure, but those were the consequences, it looks like. The American people made that judgment call. Once we got the emails rolling, we found the pay-to-play allegations being out of these emails, where you've got these foreign nationals and donors of the Clinton Foundation going through the Clinton Foundation to get favors from the State Department. And certainly that raised questions about Hillary Clinton. And then even going back further, though, Judge, it was in 2014 we first disclosed that Hillary Clinton, through her husband, speaking fees, got $500,000 from the Russians. Mm-hmm. So now it's 3 years later, and we're still talking about whether we're going to investigate it. All right. There's a pile of allegations on pay-to-play. Let me just say this quickly about about Attorney General Sessions. Mm-hmm. You know, James Comey says boo, and there's a special counsel appointed to target the president with destruction. And we ask questions about why hasn't there been a significant independent investigation of Hillary Clinton, and the Justice Department is tying itself in knots trying to explain how that decision process is going to be made. They still haven't figured out what to do.
Why
it's really
do you think
outrageous.
that, Tom, it is outrageous. Why do you think that is? Jeff Sessions is an honorable guy. What's he afraid of?
I think his recusal, he made the mistake initially in recusing himself.
Okay, you recused yourself,
and he put himself in a box.
Get a special counsel.
And he can take himself out of the box. And he shouldn't appoint a special counsel like Mueller. He should just appoint a special counsel directly, using his powers as Attorney General, to investigate this mess. And let me say this about Congress. Where's Congress been? These allegations have been out there 2-3 years. They haven't done anything. And they can enforce their subpoenas on their own. And they, frankly, can get a select committee and appoint their own special counsel, a la Watergate, to figure out what went on with these scandals during the Obama administration and Hillary Clinton.
You know what? It's why Congress is held in such low esteem, Tom. We're going to have you back on. I really want to finish this conversation. The American people are fed up. But Tom Fitton, thanks so much for what you've done. We look forward to talking to you again.
Thank you, Judge.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
And next, I headed to Washington to speak to two of the congressmen who grilled Jeff Sessions this week. My exclusive interview is next. Then another exclusive investigation. People magazine says Blake Shelton is the sexiest man alive. I found some Americans who have other ideas. Justice rolls on in a moment.
Give me the name of someone you think is sexy.
Harrison Ford.
Oh, I love him. All right, give me another one.
Who's sexy?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, Jimmy Buffett.
Jimmy Buffett.
Yeah.
This week, I sat down with two members of the House Judiciary Committee who grilled Attorney General Jeff Sessions on the Hill, Congressman Jim Jordan and Congressman Ron DeSantis. They divulged some very interesting details about what's next in both the dossier investigation and the Uranium One probe and what the president needs to do. Take a look. Thanks for being with us. I'll start with you, Congressman Jordan. Asked you some very general question. Did you get answers to the questions that you asked the Congress, asked the Attorney General?
No, the very first question I asked him is, did the FBI pay Christopher Steele, the author of the dossier? He said he couldn't answer that and wouldn't answer that. I mean, we have staff. We know who our staff are, and we know if they're on the payroll or not and how much they're getting paid. Did the FBI pay the guy who wrote the dossier? And at the same time that we know the Clinton campaign, the Democrat National Committee were paying Fusion GPS to put together the dossier as well.
Why
did that
is
happen?
that important?
Because we believe that they did. It's been reported that the FBI did. More importantly, if the dossier, and I think this is what took place, if the dossier became the basis, if they turned a Oppo Research National Enquirer type report into an intelligence document, took that to a FISA court in front of a federal judge and persuaded him that it was real intelligence, and that became the basis for spying on people associated with the Trump campaign, that is not supposed to happen in this country. It does not work that way.
Well, we already know it's big time a problem, Congressman DeSantis, because we have the Clinton campaign, the DNC, sending money to Perkins Coie, who then sends money to Fusion GPS, who then sends money to the person, Christopher Steele. Now, we know there are reports that not only did the FBI pay $50,000 to Steele, but that Steele has provided information and worked with the FBI previously. Now, if this is the basis for the FISA warrant, then what we've got is a kangaroo court, and we've got not just a primary on the Democratic side that was rigged, we also have an investigation that is rigged. How can we find out whether or not that Fusion report in Christopher Steele's dossier was the basis of a FISA warrant?
Well, I think what we need to do is ask the president to declassify the applications that the FBI used in order to get this surveillance during the campaign. And once we have that information, then we can know whether it was from the dossier or not. Congress has been trying to get this from the FBI for months now. They have fought us tooth and nail on that. And you have to ask yourself why. It's clearly something that Congress and the American people are concerned about. You can provide it in a classified setting if you're worried about that. But yet they've fought us tooth and nail.
Okay, so is someone going to make a request to the president to declassify? And it's totally within his power?
Yes.
Yes. So we're working. We want to find a committee, maybe oversight, maybe judiciary, who's willing to get the members on board and then send the letter from the committee to the president. I think it will work.
Don't you think it's curious, Congressman Jordan, that, you know, on the one hand, you have Jim Comey, the head of the FBI. He's running out saying, you know, Hillary Clinton, I'm investigating her today, and I'm closing this investigation. I'm starting a new investigation. I'm closing that one. She's not guilty.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, they can't tell us whether or not, you know, they paid $50,000 to an individual who created a dossier we know about.
It took the head of the Intelligence Committee, the Speaker of the House, saying turn over the records before we could learn that the DNC and the Clinton campaign, which frankly are one and the same, we learned they were paying for the dossier. They were paying Fusion GPS. They weren't going to tell us that, and that, oh, they were going to subpoena bank records. Suddenly, they find the Lord and give us that information. So Ron's exactly right. If we can, a letter to the president, say declassified. Let's let American people know if in fact this took place.
If it did take place, then we've got a false narrative created to not only destroy Donald Trump, but then we've got the FBI and the Democratic National Committee in cahoots so that they could destroy a Republican candidate for president. That's the kind of headline that this country has never seen.
And you have to ask yourself, why would the FBI have paid Steele if he was already compiling this for the Democrats? And I think one reason they may have, if they used it for the FISA, is they wanted to provide the FISA court with a cloak of respectability for the information.
And Judge, in support of that theory, think about what Comey did on January 6, 2017, when they went to the Trump Tower and met with President-elect Trump, briefed him on the intelligence situation, and then everyone leaves the room and Mr. Comey talks to him about the dossier. That gave the dossier legitimacy as well, because remember, all the press had this document. No one would print it because this is National Enquirer baloney. No one would print it. But now, to Ron's point, the FBI director took the time to have a special meeting with the president-elect to brief him on this dossier, and suddenly it gets leaked real quick after that meeting. Someone leaked it, and now it has respectability because the FBI director it was important enough to talk to the president-elect. That is a big concern, and it fits right in with the theory that Congressman DeSantis just talked about.
And isn't it interesting that Jim Comey is such an important player in all of this?
Sure
that we know that he has admitted to leaking things to a friend to go to the New York Times to seek a special counsel, and and then we find out that the Attorney General has these 27 active investigations into leakers. But let me back up a little bit. After the hearing, and I'll start with you, Congressman DeSantis, did you get a straight answer as to whether or not the Attorney General has recused himself regarding Uranium One?
We didn't, and I had...
You did not?
No, we did not. I had always assumed that he was recused because when he was confirmed by the Senate, his confirmation hearings, he told Senator Grassley of the Clinton matters, including the foundation, there hasn't been an official recusal, I don't think. So I'm not clear whether he's recused, but it makes a difference because if he doesn't think he needs to be recused, then you don't necessarily need a special counsel.
Let me read this to you. This is a statement on his recusal at the confirmation hearing. He says, I have decided to recuse myself from any existing or future investigations of any matters related in any way to campaigns for President of the United States. I have taken no actions regarding any such matters to the extent they exist. That has nothing to do with Uranium One. That has everything to do with the campaign. And yet, Congressman Jordan, when he was asked by you and Congressman Gates, it seemed that he didn't know whether he was or wasn't recused.
Yeah,
did you get a straight answer?
Congressman Gates asked him specifically twice. Early in the questioning, the Attorney General indicated that he was not recused, had not recused himself from anything to deal with Uranium One. Later in the questioning, he says he wasn't sure. So I'm not exactly sure if the Attorney General knows the parameters of the recusal and what those all entail. And what he said in previous testimony, like in front of the United States Senate, I think he indicated in front of the United States Senate that things that deal with the Clinton Foundation, he felt he was recused from. So we're not sure where the line is. Again, all this underscores the fact.
Do you guys have the authority to call in all of those members of CFIUS who, according to my investigation, 7 of the 9 of them who approved the Uranium One deal had connections to the Clinton Foundation, to find out, put them under oath and find out what exactly their connections were to the foundation and whether they made any money off that foundation?
We have subpoena power.
Yeah, sure.
I think what we need to do, though, is we need to get all the documents from the informant. We need to subject him to a lot of questioning. A lot of that will be done outside of public view. We'll be with Congressman Jordan, myself, staff members, so that we're building the factual record. And then based off that, I mean, you know, Judge, you did this, figuring out who else we need to talk to. So I think some of those main principles I think are very relevant, but I think that would be towards the end once we have facts, because as you know, some of these folks, if they come and testify under oath, they're very slippery, and you got to have the facts to be able to confront them with. Otherwise, they'll say, well, I don't know this. So we don't want to let them do that. So we got a lot of work with the informant and that information. But yes, we can subpoena people.
This is not about getting back the other party. That should be the furthest thing. This is about equal treatment under the rule of law, plain and simple.
My thanks again to Congressman Jordan and DeSantis for that exclusive interview. Street Justice. Go ahead. And up next, the power panel is back and we're loaded. Matt Slapp, Chris Hahn, ready to go at it. And I may have a little something to say myself. Justice rolls on in a moment.
Live from America's News headquarters, I'm Anita Vogel. Jerry Adams is stepping down as leader of Sinn Féin next year. Adams was the public face of the Irish Republican movement as it shifted from war with the UK to peace. He was denounced as a terrorist by some and hailed as a peacemaker by others. Adams was key to the peace process that led to the 1998 Good Friday Agreement and the formation of the power-sharing government in Northern Ireland. A co-founder of Australian hard rock group AC/DC has died. The death of Malcolm Young was announced on the group's official Facebook page. A statement says Young died peacefully with his family by his side. Young co-founded AC/DC with his brother Angus. The group entertained for more than 40 years, selling over 200 million albums. He had suffered with dementia since 2014. Malcolm Young was 64 years old. I'm Anita Vogel. Now back to Justice with Judge Jeanine.
This tax cut really is not for the middle class, it's for the rich. I get sick and tired of the richest people.
Regular order, Mr. Chairman.
Getting richer and
Regular order.
before we learn this.
Listen, I've honored you by allowing you to spout off here. And what you said was not right. That's all I'm saying. I come from the lower middle class originally. We didn't have anything. So don't spew that stuff on me. I get a little tired of that crap.
The fight over tax reform is shifted to the Senate, and the fireworks are already flaring. So let's get right to our own fireworks with my star panel tonight. Chairman of the American Conservative Union, Matt Slapp, and former aide to Senator Chuck Schumer, radio talk show host Chris Hahn joins me tonight. All right, guys, I want to have a discussion about the tax bill. And I don't want to have a political argument. I really want to have a discussion for my viewers. The bottom line is this. I don't know a lot about taxes. I don't get it. I get it from an accountant. I sign what he tells me to sign, and that's it. Matt, what do you say the benefit is to the ordinary working American?
The ordinary working American has not seen their take-home pay increase in over a decade, Judge. And so what the hope is with this tax plan, and the crown jewel of it, is to allow investors to invest into private enterprises, into their companies, to grow economic prospects so that more middle-class Americans have job prospects, they can get a better job, they can get a promotion at work, and we will do that by making America's income tax rate for corporations competitive once again with the globe.
Stop. Let me see if I get it. So you're saying by reducing the corporate tax rate from 35 to 20%, it's going to help people, businesses, and they're going to hire more people? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. Chris, is that true?
It's absolutely false.
Why
to
is
the
that?
extent that businesses to the extent that big corporations take that money and invest it into their product and into their facilities, they will further automate and actually cost jobs. What they're going to do with that money is give
Chris,
dividends
can you stop
and
for a
actually
minute?
buy back
Chris,
stock.
I said, please stop, Chris. Chris, please stop. It's not big corporations that we're talking about. Small businesses we're talking about. That is the vast majority of Americans. We're talking about mom and pop stores. We're talking about businesses.
Yeah.
You can talk about Exxon and Mobil. Wait a minute, Chris. Come on.
Yeah.
I want to have a real conversation tonight. My viewers deserve that.
Okay.
If business, if I have a plumber, if my electrician, if this guy is able to pay less in corporate taxes, isn't it better for him?
Yes, but this bill doesn't do that for him because most of those people are S-corps, which are pass-throughs right onto their regular personal income taxes, and most of them will see their taxes rise. Calling this a middle-class tax increase is as big a lie as if you like your plan, you can keep your plan.
Oh, so
this
now
will be Paul Ryan's Waterloo and Mitch McConnell's Waterloo, and if Donald Trump is not careful, it'll be his Waterloo.
Okay, thanks, but you weren't willing to say that. That's why I don't want to be political now. This is about American money.
I'm not.
All right, Matt, what's your response to that?
So look, this is just an obvious thing. Even there's even a lot of Democrats who've been pushing reducing the corporate income tax because America has one of the highest corporate income taxes on the globe.
We know. It's got to go down. But who does it help?
So let's go to the second piece of this, these small businesses that Chris was talking about, these pass-through entities that pay their income in their business, but they get to pay the tax rate as an individual.
Right.
That gets reduced to 25% in the House plan. There's a different plan in the Senate, but only 30% of their income, to make it more complicated, goes through the 25% rate. So Chris has a point that for small business people, they don't get as big of a tax cut as the big corporations, which gives people a talking point on that. But still, small businesses could come out with lower taxes as well in this bill.
All right, so that goes to Chris. All right, but let's talk about decreasing the mortgage deduction. All right, so they're decreasing the mortgage deduction, and in states like New York, New Jersey, California, some of the tax rates and what we pay in real estate taxes, state and local taxes, I mean, they're telling the states, you caused the problem, you eat it. Should we have to eat it, Chris?
Right.
You live in New York.
Absolutely. Look, this is the economic engine of the country, and there are higher taxes here, yes. And I think something needs to be done about that.
How about New Jersey?
But it is. New York, the Northeast is the economic engine of the country. So is California.
What's their excuse?
There's a lot of economic There's a lot of economic activity in these states, and they send more money to Washington than they get back. And look, if you want to do something about the state and local deduction, you phase it in over 20 years so that they have time to adjust. But doing it this way is going to raise taxes on a lot of small businesses we were just talking about. They're going to lose very popular deductions, and that's not going to be good for working men and women across this country.
I'm not going to be slighted as a Kansan because I think we do a lot of economic work out there too. But I agree with Chris that when you take away a big deduction,
stop it, Chris.
When you take away a big deduction, really, let's be honest, that's the same thing as a tax increase. So the problem is, if you come from a big tax state like New Jersey, like New York, like California, even if you're a conservative living in those states, you're going to have a big tax increase due to no fault of your own, simply because you don't get to write off those taxes in a sense.
That's a problem. All right.
It's a big problem.
Matt Schlapp, Chris Hahn, thanks for being with us.
Okay.
And now sexy street justice still ahead, and Ben Shapiro is next. He's a great guest. Don't go away.
You're not Charles.
Sexual misconduct scandals dominating the headlines this week. Apologies by Senator Al Franken. Denials by Alabama GOP Senate candidate Roy Moore. Here to react to it all, syndicated columnist and host of The Ben Shapiro Show. Ben Shapiro joins me now. Thanks for being here tonight on Justice. Your first time, Ben. We're thrilled to have you on. All right, Ben, I want to call for the sound of Kirsten Gillibrand from New York when she's being questioned by a New York Times reporter. Why don't you take a listen?
Is it your view that President Clinton should have stepped down at that time, given the allegations?
Yes, I think that is the appropriate response.
Don't you think it's rather interesting that within 10 months, where Senator Gillibrand from New York is like, Hillary Clinton is a role model for women, we love her, she's great, and she's going to drag along her hubby Bill, and then all of a sudden, yeah, that guy should have resigned. Besides being a hypocrite, isn't she opportunistic, and should people feel comfortable with her as a United States senator?
Well, I mean, I'm not sure that they should feel comfortable with her as a United States senator in any circumstances, but certainly, this notion that Democrats have suddenly decided that Bill Clinton should have been impeached 20 years ago, and this idea we're going to get in Doc Brown's time machine and go back and get rid of Clinton then, they were all giving him a standing ovation in the Rose Garden when he was impeached, and now they're coming out and saying, 10 months after he becomes politically useless to them, now they're going to throw his corpse under the bus. And when they finally get a chance to condemn somebody who's actually sitting right now, right, Senator Franken, then all of a sudden they say, oh, well, you know what we want? We don't want him to go. What we'd really like is a Senate Ethics Committee investigation. And for people who don't know what a Senate Ethics Committee investigation is, the answer is it's nothing. It's a big nothing. Between 2007 and 2016, there were something like 613 reports to the Senate Ethics Committee for investigation, and there were 0 sanctions, none. So the idea, I mean, Al Franken called for an investigation of himself. He said, I'd like a Senate ethics investigation of me. Yeah. Okay, if you're guilty of stuff, and we know he's guilty, there's a picture of him trying to grab a lady's boobs on while she's
not
sleeping.
actually
There's not a lot to investigate there. If you know you're guilty and you're calling for an investigation, that probably suggests that the investigation doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot.
But the whole thing is when he apologized, and people say, oh, he's so great, he apologized. Hillary apologized, she said, as if she should be telling women how they should react in cases like this. The truth is he apologized for taking the picture. He didn't apologize for doing all the things she accused him of doing. And yet the left that claims to be the protectors and the guardians of women are the party that never believed women. Hillary Clinton was part of the party that trashed women. I mean, do we owe women like Monica Lewinsky, on whose dress the semen was found, of the president of the United States? Talk about an imbalance of power between a president and an intern. Do we owe her an apology? Do we owe Juanita Broderick an apology, who made an immediate outcry regarding a rape to a minimum of 5 women?
That's exactly right. I mean, if you look at the Juanita Broderick story particularly, last year President Trump during the campaign brought up Broderick, and the media said it was completely inappropriate for him to do so. How dare he bring up Juanita Broderick? Now we have op-eds in the New York Times about how Democrats suddenly believe Juanita Broderick, which says to me that this is much more an issue of political convenience for Democrats than it is about any sort of principle that they're trying to uphold. Suddenly they've become conservatives, typical kind of traditionalist conservatives when it comes to sexual misconduct, except when it comes to their own people, of course. There they maintain their old standard.
And what's interesting, for years, we have been paying off the taxpayers, you and me, for the sexual misdeeds of those in Congress. Should Al Franken be forced to resign?
I think Franken should go. I think he should be forced to resign. I mean, it doesn't seem to me.
What about Roy Moore in Alabama? What should happen to him?
I've said that Moore should step down from the race, and I think that if he's elected, he should immediately be not seated. I mean, I think that the allegations against Roy Moore are incredibly serious. They seem to me very credible. He's done almost nothing to rebut any of the serious allegations made against him. And the idea that we are going to be seating people with credible allegations of child molestation against them that haven't been rebutted in any serious way, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me on any level. Listen, if we're going to have a country, if we're going to have a social fabric where we can actually trust each other regardless of what side of the political aisle we're on, then we're going to need to have some sort of standards for the character of the people that we seat in high office. I mean, this is getting to be beyond the pale, and it has been for 20 years, but it seems to be getting worse.
All right, Ben Shapiro, thanks so much for being on Justice Tonight. And who's the sexiest man alive? People say he is, but what do the people say? Street Justice is next.
Nick The answer is it's nothing. It's a big nothing. Between 2007 and 2016, there were something like 613 reports to the Senate Ethics Committee for investigation, and there were 0 sanctions, none. So the idea, I mean, Al Franken called for an investigation of himself. He said, I'd like a Senate ethics investigation of me. Yeah. Okay, if you're guilty of stuff, and we know he's guilty, there's a picture of him trying to grab a lady's boobs on... while she's sleeping. There's not a lot to investigate there. If you know you're guilty and you're calling for an investigation, that probably suggests that the investigation doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot.
But the whole thing is, when he apologized, and people say, oh, he's so great, he apologized. Hillary apologized, she said, as if she should be telling women how they should react in cases like this. The truth is, he apologized for taking the picture. He didn't apologize for doing all the things she accused him of doing. And yet the left that claims to be the protectors and the guardians of women are the party that never believed women. Hillary Clinton was part of the party that trashed women. I mean, do we owe women like Monica Lewinsky, on whose dress the semen was found, of the president of the United States? Talk about an imbalance of power between a president and an intern. Do we owe her an apology? Do we owe Juanita Broderick an apology, who made an immediate outcry regarding a rape to a minimum of 5 women?
That's exactly right. I mean, if you look at the Juanita Broderick story particularly, last year President Trump during the campaign brought up Broderick, and the media said it was completely inappropriate for him to do so. How dare he bring up Juanita Broderick? Now we have op-eds in the New York Times about how Democrats suddenly believe Juanita Broderick, which says to me that this is much more an issue of political convenience for Democrats than it is about any sort of principle that they're trying to uphold. Suddenly they've become conservatives, typical kind of traditionalist conservatives when it comes to sexual misconduct, except when it comes to their own people, of course. There they maintain their old standard.
And what's interesting, for years, we have been paying off the taxpayers, you and me, for the sexual misdeeds of those in Congress. Should Al Franken be forced to resign?
I think Franken should go. I think he should be forced to resign. I mean,
what
it
about
doesn't seem to me.
Moore in Alabama? What should happen to him?
I've said that Moore should step down from the race, and I think that if he's elected, he should immediately be not seated. I mean, I think that the allegations against Roy Moore are incredibly serious. They seem to me very credible. He's done almost nothing to rebut any of the serious allegations made against him. And the idea that we are going to be seating people with credible allegations of child molestation against them that haven't been rebutted in any serious way, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me on any level. Listen, if we're going to have a country, if we're going to have a social fabric where we can actually trust each other regardless of what side of the political aisle we're on, then we're going to need to have some sort of standards for the character of the people that we seat in high office. I mean, this is getting to be beyond the pale, and it has been for 20 years, but it seems to be getting worse.
All right, Ben Shapiro, thanks so much for being on Justice Tonight. And
Thanks.
Who's the sexiest man alive? People say he is, but what do the people say? Street Justice is next.